Hello everybody, I'm Callum at Repair Wins, and I'm going to do something a little bit different today. It's not really related to repair. Well, I guess it is related to repair, but it's not an electronics repair. The desk that this tripod is currently sat on top of has got loads of holes in it, and it's in really poor condition because I drilled a bunch of holes in a computer side panel whilst at this desk. But instead of chucking the entire desk in the bin and then buying a new one to replace it, because you know that's not how I roll, I thought, it's two pieces of wood sandwiched together because I built it out of an old wardrobe. So can I not just cut out the faulty section, which is just the top of the two panels, and then drop in another panel, ideally of scrap wood, and then screw that to the desk through the bottom. And then the idea would be that I've got a repaired desk and I don't have to dismantle this thing and put the legs onto a new one and move all of the stuff off. And oh God, I mean, it's just the thought of all that work and all of that downtime, it doesn't make me happy. So why don't I instead take a router, cut the rubbish bit of the desk out, chuck a new piece in the top, and just see how I go. So this might turn out to be a really stupid idea. It might turn out to be an ingenious idea. But I suppose watch along, and I guess you can find out which of the two it ends up being. So this is my desk as it stands. You can see that I've put this anti-slip cover on it. It was always temporary. It was basically a plaster just to cover all of the holes that are in it or the fact that it's been burnt. But if I move across, you'll see that most of the desk is actually fine. And over here, there's a few small drill holes, or I was testing out my new jigsaw. But you can see most of the desk is okay. It's just this middle section that's in really poor condition. And you can see that it's two separate pieces of wood put together, and there's no glue. I've just used loads of screws from beneath. I think it's going to be as simple as just routing across, removing the top sheet like that, dropping a new sheet in, and getting away with it. But what I will do is just quickly remove this top sheet off camera, and then I'll come back to you once I've removed it. So this is the main section of the damage, and I think, to be honest, if I kind of cut from here down to about here, where this sort of hole is, where this screw head's been put in or whatever has happened, if I sort of cut from there and here, then I'll cut out the bulk of the damage. The way I'm going to cut this out is using something called a router, and it is pronounced router. So this one, you won't be surprised to hear, built by Black & Decker. I didn't buy it because of the brand, I bought it because it was cheap, and because it was at least a brand I recognise, and because it's fairly old, it's fairly high quality. The point is, I can put a bit in here that's just for cutting, so it's just basically a straight notch with no bearing at the end, and then I can clamp down this piece of wood. I run the flat section of the router along the piece of wood, and then by doing that in a few passes, I'll be able to cut through the top sheet. It goes without saying that the tool isn't plugged in, it's obviously not switched on. So I'm going to use a 1/4 inch straight cut bit. You'll notice there's no bearing. It's designed to plunge into the material, drag along and do cutting. The idea is that you're supposed to do this in a few passes, but basically I'm not patient enough. So I've set it down a tiny bit below the bottom of this first board. I don't mind if there's a tiny little groove cut into the second one, because you're never going to see it. So this is a nice powerful tool. It should have no trouble cutting through this fairly thin section of wood. So I've got two cheap and nasty 2-inch clamps, and we're obviously going to use those to hold this piece down. I'll be honest with you, I've eyeballed the straightness of that. It looks nowhere near straight on camera, but the camera is crooked. It goes without saying that you shouldn't be breathing this stuff in. I'm sure that's fairly obvious. That stuff's there protecting what I care about, so I am just going to switch the tool on, plunge it in and move across, basically. What could possibly go wrong? Well, it is at least cutting, but for some reason it just got stuck there. Oh, it looks like the bit has actually slid out. That's really not ideal. I'd better switch it off, loosen the bit up, shift it into position and really clamp it down nicely. This is why people like me need workshops, as I can just taste dust now. The point is, I've clamped the bit down really tightly, and it's back in the router, so we'll just go again. Switch that off for a moment, give the bit a moment to cool. I don't know if I'm doing it wrong, but we're getting a nice, straight, clear cut, so I think you definitely are meant to do a bunch of small passes as opposed to one long one, but I'm committed at this point. Is this like super duper wood or something? I don't know why it's not cutting. Good news, that appears to have cut. I'm going to set it to the rest of the depth and cut the rest. I just need to clean this up and do another pass on the other side. But I think this board is now separate. Right, we had a bit of smoke at the end there, so I'm going to do this in 3 passes with a much shorter depth. How about I just get the same piece of wood, we'll clamp it to the desk again, I'll run along, this time you'll be able to get a much better view of what I'm doing. I'll do it in 3 passes, we'll make it a lot safer. I'm making sure to hold the router away from me, but now I can switch it on and slide it along. Right, I don't know what this tool's rated for, or how long I can abuse it for or whatever, but I'm going to do the other 2 passes off camera because it's just more of the same. And then once this piece is separate, I shall come back. Without showing you where I live, I've come up with a great method to get rid of the smoky air. So I've put a clamp down here that's holding this fan in place, and I'm very glad I picked it up off the pavement now because this room was rather smoky. I have definitely burnt this bit out. It's an impossibility that I haven't. Now it will only be a few pounds for a replacement, but yeah, look at the colour of that. How it's all just burnt, and then how that one's nice and clear. So clearly the trick is to do many slow passes as opposed to a couple of really aggressive ones, because I've prematurely destroyed a bit here. If I didn't know any better, I would say those 2 channels look pretty straight. And not only that, I've managed to cut out all the rubbish, so cutting away as little material as possible, just the really junky bits in the middle. So all I need to do now to separate this is come beneath here, sit down on the ground, and then you can see there's just a few screws running along that are holding the top piece on. So I'll take those screws out, and this piece should come off in theory. I'm sorry everyone, I know the camera angle is awful, but my tripod is broken and I don't have the replacement yet. But what I've done is I've taken the vast majority of the screws out. I've just left the last 2 in here so that I can remove them on camera and then we can see together if this piece comes off. So this screw is the correct kind, but I've used the wrong kind mostly, which has got the threads really close together. So for a hardwood, you want one with the threads spaced quite far apart. These are all really close together. So I'm surprised they aren't just breaking or stripping out. But I did this with the scrap that I had to hand, and I didn't exactly know what I was doing when I built this desk. To be honest, I clearly still don't. So the theory is that's every screw out now, and the only thing holding this in is basically 2 years of wear. Oh wow, this might actually, from gentle anyway, it might still be stuck down slightly at the back by some of the screws. So see, the thing is, the leg is attached through both boards, so I don't want to take the screws out too far because then there's nothing holding the leg in place. Do you know what? Chaos mod, let's just take this out. Right, that really should be free now. But it isn't, there's still something holding it. Oh, unless there's a screw beneath the leg. Man, I'll bet you any money that's what it is. I'll bet there's a screw under the leg. Obviously, when I built this thing, I didn't put much thought into how it would come apart because I was already building it out of scrap. So I thought, if I build this and it lasts 6 months, I'll be happy. As it turns out, there was a screw hidden under the leg, but luckily the wires are slack, so I can just spin it around. So I can now take the screw out. This poor electric screwdriver never signed up for this. But now the top piece should finally come off. Oh yes, that has come free. I'll stand up slowly. Yeah. I've gone and found a piece of wood to use. It's not the right colour, but that really doesn't bother me. I've put a mark here, I've put a mark there, one there, and then one at the front, of course. So now there's 4 marks on the wood, and all I need to do is clamp a piece of wood which spans from here down to there, so I can cut that out with a jigsaw, or I'm probably not going to route it, I'll probably use a jigsaw. And then I do the same thing, clamp some wood from here to here, I'll be able to make the cut, and that should be fine. In the end, I just drew some lines on the wood, clamped it to the desk, and then cut it off with a jigsaw. And when I say this desk, I don't mean this one, I mean the one in my living room. I'm looking at this. I'm And clearly I've cut it a bit short. Oh dear. But at the front it fits really firmly. So maybe if I were to spin it around or something and leave it here, I guess I can sort of play around with it and try and get the best possible fit, because that, at least if you consider at the front, if I was to push it down, actually fits quite snugly. That's pretty much as good as it's going to get, I think. So, not perfect. You can see there's kind of a slim gap on the right, and there's a bit more of a gap here. I might lose the odd screw or two in there. I suppose there's no reason why I can't just like pour some epoxy in there, or I don't know, put a piece of tape over it or whatever. I think if I put a bit of effort in to smarten it up, it won't actually look too bad. I've got the board on the desk, and what I did was I also filed down this end as well as that end. It looks a little bit better. I'll have to find something to fill the gap, probably epoxy or something like that. But anyway, I've clamped the front, and it's quite late at night, so I can't use the drill. But what I can do is utilise the few holes that are already in the bottom of the desk from where the old panel was. I'm going to get my new electric screwdriver, which is more powerful than the old one. It's not really happy with what it's being asked to do. I should be able to crank the rest of this thing in by hand. The board can't lift up because it's clamped. But yeah, I think I'll put that one in by hand, and then the plan is to do one here, there's one at the back, and then there's obviously the 5 ones that hold the other, that hold the leg of the desk on. There it is then. It's not perfect, but I mean, it'll do the job for me. The biggest disappointment is this sort of chasm almost on the left-hand side. I would like to fill it with epoxy and so on, but realistically, it's probably not going to happen. And another thing, my friend asked me why the desk is longer at the back, and I said that's pretty much because I didn't realise the board was bigger. Now, I could take a jigsaw, cut it off, file it down, or use a rasp, to make it flush with the back, but I'm probably not going to bother either, because this thing is already pushed as far back as it'll go. It's in the same position it's always been in. These foam blocks mean it can't go any further, and you can already see that I've cut it so it lines up perfectly with the wall, and I've scratched my landlord's paint, so I'm probably going to need to repaint in here as well. But, I mean, the desk does the job, it'll work for me, but I'm not going to invest hours and hours into it, and I'm certainly not going to try and make it look perfect, because never mind putting lipstick on a pig. I mean, I don't even know what you could describe this. I mean, it was built out of a scrap wardrobe. I've then taken another scrap board from a bit of cupboard that I found, and I've stuck it on, and it'll do the job. It's nice and smooth. When I'm fixing laptops, they can sit down. They're not going to get scratched up or bashed about or anything, and that's all I can really ask for, to be honest. There we have it then. That's the end of that. I just thought I'd shift into the corner of the camera so you can see this travesty in all of its glory. If you'll remember, there's a bit of it sticking out at the back, which ironically was quite handy, because I had to balance a laptop and a charger on it earlier, and I didn't have much room, and the charger stuck out on the bit that was extending. So I'm probably going to leave it exactly as it is. But the desk has been working fine for me for the last week. I had to put some really, really heavy stuff on there the other day, and there was no signs it was going to fail or anything. I mean, at the end of the day, it's just 2 wooden panels stuck together. I don't see why there would be any problem with it, to be honest. This was a silly project. This was most definitely a waste of time. I could have bought a new desk for a lot less than what it cost me, if you want to count what my hourly labour rate is. But that's not the point of these videos. The point is to basically demonstrate that if you've got that, that if you are willing to waste a bit of time, then you can do something. I don't know if you would consider that cool. I consider it pretty cool. It's nice to take, to cut the faulty bit out of the desk and put a new bit in. But more importantly, I bought a second-hand tool, so the person who sold that tool's made a little bit of cash. And I've now got something that's really useful to me that I can carry on using for different projects and enhancements and mods and so on going forward. So, I mean, I'm happy enough with it anyway. I know that the desk is going to make filming a little bit easier. But more importantly, I was working on someone's laptop earlier, and to be able to put the machine just down on the desk without having to think, well, is that going to scratch a lid or whatever? At the moment, it's nice and fresh and shiny, so I don't need to worry about that. I'm sure within a month it's going to be scratched up and battered again, but it is nice to have a surface I can actually work on, and a surface that I can solder onto, because you can't solder on that plastic anti-slip mat that I had. But I hope you found the video useful anyway. I hope you saw something that might potentially benefit you. That is why I make these videos. I don't just make them to sit in this room talking to myself. The idea is that, people are going to watch and they're going to think, maybe I could do that, or I don't know, I like what this person's doing or whatever. So if you did like what I've published, then feel free to leave me a like. Helps with the algo, right? The algorithm, that horrible word, AI. And if you're liking what I'm publishing, then feel free to hit the subscribe button. It's completely free. You can change your mind if you don't like to, and just hit unsubscribe. It's fine, you know, you do you. So I will see you in the next video, which I believe is going to be part of the Sleeper PC series, hence why I'm looking down at the floor, because I'm just looking at the computer. In the real world, it's finished with, you know, it's done. Like, every last bit of that PC is done. I've been using it for a week and it's fantastic. But obviously we're only at episode 4, I think, in the series. So stay tuned for that if you'd like. But either way, I'm going to leave now. So take care, people. I'll see you soon, and goodbye. Bye-bye.